Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning. Let me know. I'm about to share this out. How do you share from your computer? Let's see. Oh, maybe I have to go in the confessional room and see. Y'all know we've only been able to do one confessional room because Facebook blocked me. He didn't want me to be great. He being Facebook. Let's see if I can find it and then share it out. Oh, it is better on I'm gonna share it in just networking girls too. Hello, Shaquita. Okay. Without further ado, we want to always remain in excellence by starting on time, and we are already 2 minutes late. Nevertheless, just today we are in the confessional room with with Fredericka Shante, and she is here to tell her story about the things that have happened in her life but are not affecting her today because she refused to allow for her past to dictate her future. She is a mother of three, and she is the owner of, well, I can't remember. Help me out.
Unique 3-4.
Unique 3-4. I'm going to read some of her biography. Fredericka Harris, the single mother of three girls. She was born in Birmingham and raised in a small town called Santa Maria, California.
Mm-hmm.
She returned to Birmingham to complete her high school career with a graduate of West End High School in 1995. She's always had a passion to become a small business owner. She is the owner and operator of Unique 3 Floral and More, which is a business after her own heart. Fredericka is currently seeking further venture in public speaking as well as with the message to help others come heartache, pain, and misfortune. She only believes that her God-given talent is creativity, but also empowering and encouraging others. And so today, let me give you some history on Miss Fredericka. Fredericka and I have known each other for many, many years. She and I attended the same church for several years actually. And I remember when I started the Confessions of a Lady, and she actually reached out to me and shared her story. And as many of you all know, you can never judge a book by its cover because you don't know what the back cover has to hold. Meaning you never know what somebody has been through if you never have a conversation with them. If you are always judging people, you never know the blessing that another person may have in store from you, whether that be just by a hug, a smile, or by a testimony of something that you're currently go through. As we all know that, what is it? 1 in 4 women will be sexually assaulted, which is not, and every 98 seconds someone is sexually assaulted. Those numbers alone lets you know that if you're going through anything dealing with domestic violence, sexual abuse, molestation, or rape, that you are not alone. So the purpose of the confessional room is to let women who may be not in a position to go and speak publicly, but because of whatever reason, but also for those women who have enough strength to come and talk to you, period, because they're not afraid of what others may say. And even if they are still wrestling with some type of fear, they have taken the first step of acknowledging that what they're going through does not define them. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring Miss Fredericka on. I'm going to let her share her testimony of the things that she has gone through in her life.
Hello, all. Hello, Facebook. How are y'all? How are y'all? It's a joy to be here. I love Miss Victoria. If you ever sit and talk to her, you know she's real. She's gonna be honest. She's gonna tell you the truth, and she's not gonna play with you. So it's an honor for me to be here and share my story with her. And when we began to talk about things that she had been through and things I've been through, it kind of touched home for me, and I kind of just was like a magnet to her for some reason. I know some people say run, but but it's just a joy to be able to talk to her openly and honestly. And I'm here today just to kind of share my story. It's not to bring up any bad feelings or ill will towards anybody or anything like that. But just to share my story to help somebody else come out and get through. But at the age of 13 and 14, a little over a year or so, I was molested by a family member. I don't think it's necessary to say who the family member was at this point, because I'm 40 years old now. I mean, it happened, but I'm sharing because I want to help somebody else get through and overcome, and just try to get through it. It was a pretty bad situation, but like I said, I was able to get through, and I'm just, grateful that I can share my story because some people don't even have the opportunity to share. They don't even get to this point where I am today, so I'm grateful of that.
So when you say that you were molested, a lot of people don't understand or may, we, how about, so we have a lot of people who think that what they are going through currently or what they've gone through is not characterized as molestation because they were young. It was from somebody that they loved. It was from somebody that may not have actually had intercourse with them, but there is many levels to molestation. So can you share and elaborate what you encountered when you say you were molested by a family member?
Yes, I would have to say there was a potential um, intercourse, but that didn't happen. It was more so fondling. The times that it did happen, and it did happen more than once. I think my outcry and me being scared and afraid is what scared them away to keep them from going any farther than that. Which I'm grateful of that. I mean, it could have, like I said, been worse, but it was, just to that point, finally making me feel like this was something that I was supposed to be doing with them. And it was very uncomfortable. I could say that.
Okay. Okay. So you said this happened between the ages of 13 and 14 and a half, almost 15. We talked about in the pre-interview. So tell us at what point did it stop or what took place in order for it to stop?
Well, this was a close family member, should I say. And I think what happened is I got to a point where I didn't want to be around that person at all or by myself. And so I, at the point, of course, didn't, tell my mom or didn't get into exactly what happened, but I just kind of stayed to myself, or I didn't want to be around that individual to protect myself. I didn't want them. And my mom would ask, well, what's the problem? What's wrong? Why you don't want to go over here? Why you don't want to do this with them? And for a long time, I didn't say anything. So it was when I was older when I began to talk to it with my mom. But during that time, it was just a lot of, I don't want to do that. I kind of avoided that person for as long as I could.
Okay. And at what point and what was your mother's reaction when you actually told her what took place?
Well, she was upset, but I did have to tell her, hey, at this point, I'm such and such age. This happened at this age, and I just need you to hear me out. I need you to understand what I'm saying. And they did kind of scare me with some type of, retaliation if I were to tell, but I was at an age now to where I was about to have my own child because I had a child at 18. So when I, kind of explained to her, she was just like, I had to make her promise me that she wouldn't do anything. Do I believe she didn't? No, she did something or said something. I do believe that something was said after our conversation.
Oh my goodness. So I know you shared with me something that some people never get. And what was that?
And that was a apology. At some point, this person realized that I avoided them at whatever cost. I tried to again get away from them, although I still long relationship, because like I said, this is family. So it's not like, this was a stranger on the street, somebody I can completely run from. But at some point, when we were able to talk about it and discuss it, they were just like, I apologize for anything that what I did to you. Anything I did to you that caused you any hurt and pain moving forward in life, or even at that time, I apologize. I wasn't thinking. It was selfish. And, you know, a lot of people don't get a I'm sorry. And, you know, they don't get an apology. They have to live with what happened to them and the hurt that was caused from the person, regardless of who it was. So I am grateful for an apology. However, you know, it's still my story to tell somebody because somebody needs to come out. So.
And if y'all have any questions as we're live, make sure that you comment them so we can answer them as we go. Thank you, Maria Takara. Hey, Maria. Hey, Denise. And hey, Tanisha. As we talk about this, if you have any questions specifically, don't be afraid to, put them in the comments. Actually, if you could just share this video out, you never know who may need to hear Fredericka's story on today. So, Fredericka, I know as we were talking, you said that there were some secondary issues that came with being molested at a young age. Would you let the people know what exactly you meant when you said that in the pre-interview you were telling us how you trusted easily as you got older?
Well, and what I meant by that was, you know, when we get into dating, relationships, or what have you, we still have the right to say no on how far our relationship goes with someone. But I would say the things that were told to me during this, you know, abuse made me think or feel like it was okay for others to do to me. And I would have to say that, you know, everything that I did with someone, of course, was consensual, but I did have a sense of, hey, it's okay. It's okay for you to do this with this individual because, you know, it happened to you before from a loved one. So I would have to say that, you know, I had some relationships that I was easily open to, you know, allowing them to do whatever it was physically with me. So I wished that I could take those things away or, you know, whatever the case may be, but they happen. And, you know, I wish that I had a made better choices when it comes to it because, you know, I was a early on a single mother, you know, just from some of the choices that I made, from allowing this to affect me, as if it was okay. But, you know, moving forward in life and going forward, I did have to understand that, you know, that's not what's supposed to happen. You know, I deserve better than that from.
So basically what you're saying is you became very promiscuous, and ended up ultimately being a teen mom from this. Do you think that it's affected your relationship with your children now? Because you have girls and this person who molested you was very close to you. Do you think that because this happened to you, it affected you? Or do you believe that when people are molested or sexually abused, that it does have effect when they too have children?
Well, yes, I do believe that it can have an effect on someone when they have kids because for me, I would have to say that I would have to say, after this happening to me, I sheltered my kids, as we talked about before, keeping them away from this individual or not allowing them to build a relationship because, like I said, it was family. The only regret I have is the fact that they weren't able to have, you know, that one-on-one or bond with this individual because of my insecurities after what happened to me. I do believe that when people have children, it can affect your relationship with your child. I believe that it's important, though, that when you do have kids, whether it's a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter, that you talk to them about situations like this because it could potentially happen to them. And if you don't say anything, it's just like a curse. You got to stop the curse before it happens. How do you do that? If I don't tell my kids, then how do they know? How do they know to handle a situation like that? So I believe at this point, I don't think that directly that it's had an effect on my kids. You know, they're older now, so they, you know yes and no. But at that time, you know, when that person was still around or what have you, they didn't have a relationship because of my, you know, protecting them from it ever happening to them.
So at what age do you think that it's appropriate to sit and have a conversation with your boys or your girls about sexual abuse and being able to tell another person no, that this is not allowed. I see Maria, before you answer that question, I see Maria asked the same question that I just asked. And then Tyra asks, I agree, it does affect you more. You're more cautious with children who you allow them to be around. Absolutely. So at what age do you think it's appropriate for you to have a conversation with your children about this?
I think honestly, we should we should educate our kids at the level they are. That's how I feel. Like my 7-year-old, my conversation with her would be a little different than with my 18 and 22-year-old. So I think it's at the level that they are. If they can talk and they can express to you, you know, how they're feeling or something hurts or whatever the case may be, I think that's a bell ringer. You know, I need to talk to her and say, hey, this is if someone even tries to do this to you, that, you know, it's not right and you don't have to allow them to. They shouldn't be doing it, and you need to tell me or tell somebody. So I think, like I said, at the level that they are.
Okay. And I know we talked about you went into a state of depression later on in life. How do you think that correlates with you being molested and having your trust robbed from you at an early age?
Well, like I said, this was a family member. So after, and I can say this now, this family member is no longer here. They're no longer living. So when it comes to depression and how it affected me, one of the things I did always say was, you know, why did it have to be that way? Why did our relationship have to have a wall in between it? Because I was limited on conversations with them or even involvement with them, because, you know, I didn't want it to happen again. I was uncomfortable. And like I said, I didn't want that to happen to my kids. So after, you know, the fact, and I got a little older to understand exactly what happened, sometimes I just sit and think, like, you know, why couldn't I have had a different relationship or bond with them? And then I have to be reminded that, you know, this is why, this is what happened to you, this is what they did to you. So as far as depression is concerned, I can't say that had a direct effect on depression that I've experienced in life, but it could potentially have you know, effect on somebody's depression. You know, people, you know, because they don't really have anybody to talk to about it. You know, they're scared. If they're anything like me, I was embarrassed by it. So it was something I wasn't happy about. It was something that happened to me that I wished it didn't. So I can see how it could affect somebody mentally and enough to drive them into depression.
So where do you think your depression stemmed from?
Just life. I'm a hard worker. I don't have my head out, you know, asking people for anything. So I feel like, you know, I'm working hard every day, and when things don't add up, and I lose something, and, you know, things that I need for my family, you know, last year, what happened to me, everything that I worked so hard for was taken away from me. So it was kind of difficult for me to keep a peace of mind about that. And it drove me into depression. Like, it's a couple people on this feed right now that they know firsthand and saw me in a depressed mode, to where they had to step in and say, hey, you know, you got to get your head back in the game. And, you know, they had never seen me like that before. So, you know, depression is real.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So how did you finally realize that you were depressed?
How did I finally realize I was depressed? And I told you earlier that I've never really claimed depression before. Like, I hear people talking about it, and, you know, oh, I'm so depressed. I'm like, people use that so lightly, like loosely. You know, people always say, Denise, you see, Denise, she was that one. Get up. But, you know, depression is easy. And like I told you before, is that, you know, it could be just one small thing that drives you into depression. You know, it could be a relationship. It could be the lights getting cut off and you like, oh my God, I don't have the money to pay it. What am I going to do? I'm already behind on everything else. And it wasn't that small. And like I said, I lost everything that I worked so hard for. And I mean everything. And when I say everything, I'm not just talking about like a car or a house. I mean, like a relationship, like, and for all that to all happen at one time, it was just, I just gave in to what had overtaken me, and that was depression. And the crazy thing is, I honestly believe that it was a divine intervention. It was necessary. I think that it had to happen for me to see some things. Although I've been a believer all of my life, just about, I think that me falling into depression definitely helped my relationship, and it made me realize that I needed to get more into the word. I need to get more into talking to people like you, about what you're going through to help you come out. So
talking is so important. And I mentioned that in my ebook, 10 Ways to Cope with Depression. Talking is a major way that you can cope with depression. Talking about it, because in our community, depression is one of the things that, oh, that's just the way that she acts. Oh, that's just the way that she acts. Oh, that's just her attitude. Oh, she just can't come around people. When actually it's a cry for help. Actually, it's someone trying to purge and get you to understand that, hey, me, I'm going through it. And yes, we know that everybody goes through stuff. Yes, we know that, life happens. Yes, we know that everybody is either going in something, currently in something, or going out of something. But at some point, we have to say, hey, I need help. You do not have to take on the world by yourself. You do not have to feel that you have the world on your shoulders. It is okay to cry for help. Maria asks, how did you overcome depression? What steps did you take? What advice would you give someone that's going through? Look, Maria, you can't take over the show, because every question that I ask, here you come typing. But go ahead, because Maria just won't let us have it today.
Okay, so how I overcome, at first, like I said, I didn't claim depression, so it was hard for me to realize where I was. I literally had to hit rock bottom for me to realize that that's where I was. I was depressed, and my faith was the number one thing that brought me out. A lot of people don't really, I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say,
no, we're going to be transparent.
We're going to be transparent.
This is a confessional room.
Okay.
We're confessing in this here room. Yeah?
Okay, we're going to be transparent. For the sake of transparency, let me just say, everybody don't believe in God. Everybody don't have faith. Everybody don't, a lot of people are believing in themselves. That's what the problem is because you so hurt, you angry, you mad, at the world, and you trying to save yourself, and you can't do that. You have to find some divine intervention or some type of higher power from somewhere to get you out. I mean, I can tell you my steps, but that may not work for everybody. Y'all know where I'm at every Sunday and Tuesday. If you really looking for me, you know where I am. And it's not even about the place or the name or who's there. It's really about my relationship with God. I don't play with that. And like I said, I think it was a divine intervention. When I went through depression, it was God putting me there. He had to place me there, and he had to empty me of everything that was a distraction. He had to take so many things that meant so much to me away from me for me to see that although I do have faith in him, that I need to adjust my level of faith. It needs to be increased. And in order for him to do that, he had to take a lot of stuff away so that he can fill me up. So, a lot of people, they just don't trust church. They don't trust people to talk to, but you gotta find something. Something has to help you get out. You can't do it yourself. You gotta have people Denise was a joy, me being able to talk to her every day about what I was going through. And the crazy thing is, a lot of stuff that I was going through, she'd been through before. People place people in your life for a reason, like stepping stones. She was a stepping stone at that time. I needed to stand on her, and she explained some things to me. It's just a lot of people, just like the word. I just kept getting confirmations, for stuff that I had been praying for, and God brought me through. And the crazy thing is, when I went through all of the depression, I mean, like, I was mentally and physically depressed. I was laying on my couch for 2 weeks before I could even move. Yeah, 2 weeks I was taken down and through. Like, God just shut me down and said, nope, don't go nowhere. You're going to stay right here until you hear what I'm saying. So, everybody goes through things differently. You got to do what works for you. But if you want to come out, sometimes you got to make a different move because you can't save yourself.
Because it had you could have done it and did it then, you wouldn't have been there.
I wouldn't be there.
Anyways, we're gonna leave that alone because we're not gonna go there on today. However, if you could save your world, if you could save yourself, you would have done it and you would have solved before you got there. So you would have went around it and not through it. But anyways, we won't go there either. So speaking about depression, speaking about molestation, speaking about promiscuous relationships, speaking about unhealthy relationships, what are you doing today to help better yourself so that you won't fall back into depression? I know we kind of said, that you had a relationship with God, but what are you doing to instill in yourself that back then in your past isn't affecting you, or it's not who Fredericka is today?
Well, what am I doing? I stay as positive as possible, although it gets hard sometimes because I'm human and I'm not perfect. I try to keep myself busy and doing things that are to help other people. When you talk through stuff, it gets you through. It really, really does. So I try to talk to people. A lot of people come to me in confidence about things that they're going through or things that they've been through. And it could be something in my heart or mind. And I'd be like, look at God. Like you just, okay, I get it. So moving forward to stay, in a positive mindset. It's not always church. It could be a book. It could be activities. My kids mean the world to me. Everybody know that. So I try to live vicariously through them. And what I mean by that is I try to protect them from molestation or hurt or whatever happening to them. So they mean a lot to me. So to see them happy and smile and, just living and have no responsibilities, that means a lot to me. I live a lot and smile a lot because they do. So I feed and I sow into my kids a lot because they make me happy. They bring me out. They help me get, to different places. Like they're not perfect. They kids, but they mean a lot to me and God gave them to me for a reason. So I just feel like, my family, they mean a lot to me. So those are most things that I do, try to stay positive and move forward and, not, think about the past, but things come up again, but what do? You learn from what happened before and you move forward. You can't make the same mistakes. And we like to claim and say the devil did it, but, a lot of times we put ourselves back in that same position. So
does anyone have any questions for Fredericka or myself in regards to anything that we talked about on today? Fredericka, what would you tell people as people are preparing their questions? What would you tell people who haven't gotten to the place of being able to, let me say this. Sometimes the people who abuse us may never know, especially when things happen to us when we were children and now we're adults, and they are now further off in adulthood. If it was an adult that did it to you, they may never come and apologize. And forgiveness is not for the other person to say, hey, I'm sorry. Forgiveness is for you to be able to accept, to acknowledge the things that have happened, accept that you cannot change them, and affirm yourself that you are not your past. It is so important for us to understand that we cannot change our past. We can only deal with today and hope for tomorrow will be better than today. So I encourage you all, as y'all listening to her story and as you're listening to her tell the things that she has been through, and understand that if you have currently, or you're going through it, or your children are going through it, you may never get that apology. You may never get it. Luckily, before the person died, Fredericka was able to talk to them, and they were able to acknowledge the things that happened to her, and to let her know that it was not her fault. Furthermore, I lost my train of thought, but that's okay.
Some who don't get an apology.
There is some who do not get an apology and will never get an apology. And this is what I was going to say. I like in these days to think of the stories in two different ways. Have you ever stopped to think that the only reason why it happened to you is because it happened to them? And yes, true enough, they should have known better because they were an adult or they were a little bit older than you or whatever the case may be, that they only did it because they knew they only did it because it happened to them. Now, I'm not excusing anybody's behavior because nobody should force themselves upon somebody else. No one should put their hands upon somebody else. But at the end of the day, understand that it may have happened to them too. And they're not in a place, or they can't get to a place where they understand what they done was wrong. And again, please me when I'm saying I'm not excusing anybody's actions, but look at stuff in life as a twofold. Don't just look at it as, oh, it happened, they did it, they should know. Because like she said, not everybody gets that apology. Not everybody even gets to ask them. Not everybody even gets to talk to the person who abused them. So, Fredericka, what is something that you want to leave the people with on today?
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to share was because I had a conversation with a young lady in confidence.
Hey, Dawn.
About, this same thing happening to her. And when she told me her story, we were actually talking about her and her mother's relationship. And her mother and her, they don't have a good relationship. And I asked her why, and she told me pretty much the same exact thing that happened to me. I felt like, this is God saying, this conversation needs to come up because it happened to you and it's happening to other people, or it's happened to other people. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but I do want to tell you guys that, there are certain things that happen to us that we've overcome that somebody needs to hear the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we need to hear, the positive part of it. Although her and her mom don't have a good relationship, she has kids and she can feed and sow into her kids positive things. And, hey, this happened to me, but guess what? It didn't overtake me. Although me and your grandmother don't have a good relationship, I don't want you guys to have any negative or ill feelings towards your grandmother, because her and I don't. This is the reason why we don't. But I'm going to forgive and I'm going to move forward. She didn't believe me and she didn't hear my cry when I was telling her what happened to me. So, when it comes to those people with children, because I have kids and I have girls, and it meant a lot to me for me to talk about it. Although everybody may not agree, hey, this happened years ago, but guess what? It's my story. Your story is your story. What happened to you, somebody needs to hear it in order to get through. And like she said, everybody doesn't get an apology. And when you don't get that apology, you still have to move forward in life.
Gotcha.
You have to move forward. If you want to be able to forgive that person, you have to be able to move on. Like, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna have that pain, but you have to keep, moving. You just gotta build the best relationship you can. Like with my friend, I'm sure that she probably is going to see this, but people like her, who her and her mom spat all the time because her mom felt like she was lying to her about what happened to her. And that's not fair to her. No, it's not. But she's an adult now and she has kids. And in order for her kids to have a great life and move forward in a good relationship with her mom, she needs to make sure they're aware, hey, no, this is not supposed to happen to you. But moving forward, I've forgiven and I moved on, and I can, go on and live my life in the best way possible. But just to not hold on to it anymore. Talk about it. If you don't want to talk publicly, go to somebody, anybody, somebody. Victoria is an awesome tool. Not tool, but platform, to use, because this confession room and what she instills in her empowerment is that, talk about it. In order to talk about it, you're helping others get through. So, you got to find things like that that'll help you overcome it. Take your mama who didn't believe you to one of these conferences and let her hear somebody else tell their story so they can see, you know what, I didn't believe my child then, and I may owe her an apology, although the person who did this to her didn't give her one. So, you just got to look at it from a positive standpoint.
You definitely do. And when you realize that it's not your fault, and when you get to that place where you're able to talk to your mother, I recommend anybody who I ever talk to is, sometimes you can't pick up the phone and call your mom and just express it. My mom will tell you, whenever I would feel some type of way growing up, I would always write her a letter. She's like, if you write me one more letter, just tell me. But I wasn't there yet. You have to, writing it down is just like speaking. It's just like purging. It's just like getting it out. And then sometimes you have to just burn them. Sometimes you have to just burn them and let them go. My friend Katie Reed, who's a therapist, she is big on write it out, put it on paper. But the word says, what's the word say about writing it out?
Make it plain.
Oh, okay then. So if the word says it, then it needs to be so. Sometimes you can't talk about it, but you can write it. You can put it down. You can go back to it. You can send a letter. You can do something, but you have to get it up. You have to get it up. And one day when you get it up, you can spit it out. But until you get to that point, I'm all about taking baby steps. I'm all about eating the pepperoni and not trying to take on the biggest piece of the world all at one time. Because if you did, you'll get sick. One pepperoni at a time, one step at a time. You have to make the progress, but don't do it because Fredericka and I told you to do it today. You do it in your own time. You do it when you are ready, because at the end of the day, when you get to your friends or you get to church or you get to your therapist or your psychologist, your psychiatrist, and you tell them what they want to hear, you got to go back home and deal with them four walls. You got to go back home and deal with those children. You got to go back home and deal with those people. So you can't do it because everybody else telling you to do it. You got to do it when you're ready to do it. But all we're saying is try it out. Try it out. Acknowledge that it has happened. Acknowledge that it has happened. The first step to anything is acknowledging that it happened. Whether you are addicted to sex, addicted to pills, addicted to drinking, addicted to driving fast. I think some of them are me, but not just being honest. Some of them I've been delivered from. But in any 12-step process that you go through, any system that you work, the first thing they're going to do is have you to admit your issues. And when God gave me the vision for the Confessions of a Lady, I was like, confess, admit. My only purpose in life, and anybody will tell you, and I tell them, is to get people to admit that they have the issue. We are in a society, we're in a community of people who want to put on this facade and say that we have it all together, but we don't. I'm not sitting here and saying that I don't have moments that I get depressed. I'm not saying I don't have moments where I think about my past. But what I am saying, what we are saying is we are choosing to be happy. We are choosing to try and live a better life. We are choosing to instill in our daughters that what happened to mommy and what happened, and we don't want this to happen to you. So we're standing up and taking a stand against it so that we can tell other people that you are not alone. Every 98 seconds, someone is being sexually abused, and every 9 seconds, somebody's a product of domestic violence. So those numbers alone should scare you. Not into talking about it, but just acknowledging that it's happening to you. When I first started this organization, I thought that I had the worst story of it all. But as I began to talk to other people and open up, I realized that whole cliche that somebody has the worst off than you, somebody wish they had your life, is real. I've met women who have been molested, who have been raped several times, who had trains run them, they mothers who were addicted to pills and different things actually prostituted them out for their next hit. Women who have no teeth because the people who they were with knocked them out. Who have been in comas, who have been burned. And I'm thinking that my story of domestic violence and everything else I've gone through was terrible. But there is somebody else out there that needs to know that, okay, even though her story isn't as bad as mine, but she can talk about it. We want you to stop being ashamed of what you cannot change. And knowing that forgiveness is not for that other person. In order for you to heal and to be a healthy person, one, you have to acknowledge that it happened, and then you have to work to get better every day. These things happened to Fredericka when she was 13 and 14 years old. She got children older than that now. And had she allowed for that to continue to consume her, that would have rolled out to her children, and from her children to their children. And so somebody said, hey, not me. Not me. I refuse to let this trickle on to my child. I refuse to let another person in my family or in my circle be molested. I refuse to let somebody else in my family or in my friends be hurt. I refuse to let any of these things that are going on in society trickle into my circle. But when you think about our circle, we have to think about, even though these people may not be connected to us now, you never know who you can be helping by just opening your mouth. You never know who you can be helping if you just acknowledge and get out of your own way. It's hard. I'm pretty sure that Fredericka can agree with me that there's many nights that we've cried and question ourselves and our self-worth and our self-love and our self-identity and wondering like, oh my God, why me? But then I got to a place in life where I said, why not me? Yeah, it happened, but I made it through. Many people, I think the statistics in Birmingham alone, 67% of domestic violence cases end in homicide, which means somebody dies.
Mm-hmm.
But I made it out. Yeah, it hurt. It didn't feel good, but I made it out. So you have to understand that you are not alone. You are not. And because she and I can sit here and talk about it, let our testimonies give you hope. Let our testimonies give you hope that you can make it through. If you need to talk to somebody, One thing that I learned was I didn't even know Fredericka in church. We were ushers and we stood next to each other. And if you know me personally, you know I don't meet a stranger. I talk to people. I'll talk to the walls that talk back to me. And one day she and I were just talking. We didn't know each other. But when we realized, when I opened up my mouth and she heard my testimony, she reached out to me. And it was like our stories were identical. We were one of them. We were two statistics. We were every 98 seconds and 1 in 4 women. We had two things in common. And even though they're both negative, we have made it out of those situations. So does anybody have any other questions? Because y'all know I go on. I'm long-winded, honey, here. Hey, Evan, it's my Leslie. Hi, Leslie, Tanisha, and Tara, and Maria. Alicia, what you want? You know I'm beefing with you, honey. Does anybody have any other questions for myself or Fredericka? I think it was a good show. What you
That
think?
was good. I'm glad that I was able to talk about it because a lot of people they'll be like, "Really? This really happening?" So.
And that's another thing. Like people are so judgmental. We are judgmental. Period. We will look at people and if you're just not tuning in, thank you so much for tuning in. Fredericka is here. She has talked to us about her issues with molestation growing up and how she has been depressed and all those things. So if you are just now joining in, share it out and make sure you go back and catch the full episode.
Yes, the full episode.
The full episode of the Confessional Room with Fredericka.
Thank y'all for stopping by.
Yes, stopping by.
Maria, thank you for being interactive.
I love her. I love her.
My sister, she stopped by too, Mika. And who else? Tara. Thank y'all for listening. I appreciate it. I love y'all. And thank you, Victoria.
Oh, girl, it's nothing.
For the opportunity.
It's no problem. What you mean, hi? What you mean, hi? No, ma'am, Tanisha. What I do now? Hey, Ebony. What I do? I'm always in trouble. I'm used to it. But what I was saying before we get out of here.
Thanks, Brand. That's my sister-in-law. She knew.
She knew.
Yeah, she knew.
Aww.
Thank you, Brand.
Yay! We have to stop being.
I love you too,
so Maria. Judgmental and thinking. Have you ever stopped to think about the person in the room with the biggest smile has the most hurt? I would literally, people would question me, Victoria, why aren't you talking? Victoria, why aren't you smiling? And I'd be like, I'm okay. And they'd be like, no, talk about it. You got to reach out. Sending a dry inbox message sometime will turn a person's life around. I'm big on if somebody drops into your spirit or somebody crosses your mind, reach out to them. You never know what they can be going through in that moment. I was saying I don't have any questions.
She don't have any questions.
Oh. Tanisha will be on here. Is it next Sunday, Tanisha, you're coming on to tell your story? Now, she too has an amazing story. And I can't wait for her to get in the confessional and talk about it. Well, you guys, we are within the minute spectrum. We've been on here 45 minutes. And this feel like 5 minutes, though. That hour went by fast.
That was good conversation.
Yes, honey. Yes.
We were having fun.
Well, you guys, we're going to tune out of here. And again, if you feel that anybody could be blessed by this broadcasting today in the confessional room, make sure you share it out. Don't hold it captive to yourself. And, whenever you're feeling down and out, refer back to this to this episode, to this broadcast, and know that you are not alone. You're going to make it through. You are. Alrighty, loves. Until next time, we're great pretenders when we're.
That is so true.
Good.
Oh my God. Like, that's true. You just read me.
Like all up
Cut it out.
in here. We should all be actresses at some point in life.
Yes.
All right, loves. Well, until next time.
Love y'all.
Peace.
Bye-bye.